Imagine growing up and being warned about lugau's just to find out that your mom is one. Scary story time. And this one's gonna be kind of short, so it's all gonna be in one part. I know y'all don't like to be waiting for other parts. But you know, your girl gotta build tension. Anyways, this girl, she's Haitian. And it was pretty obvious growing up that, you know, her family was into voodoo, including her mom. But she never thought that her mom, her actual mom, was a whole lugau. Speaking of lugaus, there was recently a lugau that was caught on camera, and I have the video. So let me know if y'all want to see that. Actually, I'm still gonna post it anyway, but just get ready for that. This lugau wasn't like a lugau that shapeshifts. It was a lugau that like actually came as they were, but it shows you how the like how he worked, like the ritual and everything. Like he stole somebody's bait. Anyway, y'all gonna see it when I post it. Anyway, so growing up, like I said, she knew that her family was into voodoo. It wasn't until she started to notice that her mom would be gone at night. Now, she didn't really know what the reason was, but she just knew her mom was gone and grandma was watching her. And so one time she was at school, she was playing with this girl, like one of her friends from class. And then while she was playing with this girl, this other little girl came to the girl, whispered something in her ear, and all of a sudden the girl didn't want to play with her anymore. And this went on for like a week where nobody wanted to play with her. And so she was like, what did I do? Like, why doesn't anybody want to play with me? And so she goes to confront the girl about it, and the girl tells her, yeah, your mom is a lugau, and I need to stay away from you before she takes me too. And she's like, what do you mean, take you too? So, a little backstory. There was another little boy that was in their class with them, and he was sick, and he hadn't been coming to school for like the past week or so. But she didn't really think anything of it, because she was a kid, and you know, he's sick. That's a normal thing that happens when you're sick. But come to find out, that little boy is sick because her mom mangé that little boy. Now, manger translates to eat. So her mom ate that little boy. Not literally, but that's just the expression that Haitians used when a lugau got to a kid or somebody. And so that was the real reason why that little boy was sick. And of course, at first, she didn't believe it. She's like, my mom would never. But it also got her thinking as a child, her mom has a room that she is not allowed to go into. Like, that room is locked. And every day her mom reminds her never to go in that room. And she knew better not to go in that room. And so she went home and she told her mom, like, Mommy, nobody wants to play with me because they said you're a lugau and what manje tout timunyo, which means like you're eating all the kids around. And so she was like, oh, really? Is that what they told you? And who exactly told you that? She was like, one of my friends from school. And her mom goes, yeah, but who exactly told you that? And so for some reason, she said that at that moment, she didn't want to say any names just in case. But she did want to investigate to see if it's true because she can tell when her mom is lying, and she could tell that at that moment, her mom was indeed lying. And so she went to her grandma about it, which is her mom's mom, which didn't make any sense because where do you think she learned it from? And she told her grandma that, I want to investigate. I want to know if it's true. I want to go in that room. Grandma was like, you will absolutely not go in that room. Listen to your mother and do not go to that room. And grandma sat her down and explained to her that that's her mom's religion. That's what she does. And that's also going to be her religion. When she gets old enough, they're going to teach her about it. But she knew that she didn't want to be a part of it. So knowing what she knows now, like she grew up knowing her mom was a lugau, knowing her grandma was a lugau, but she also knew that she didn't want any part of it. And as she got older, they did try to teach her about it, but she wasn't really interested. And eventually when she grew up, she just kind of like distanced herself from them. Oh, and it actually turned out to be true that her mom did manje that little boy. She was younger, she wasn't sure, but when she got older, she ended up finding out that, yeah, her mom did. And that was like one of the main reasons why that made her like, no, like I don't want to be any part of this. So yeah, maybe check on your own family because whole time they might be lugaus and you don't even know. Anyways, like I said, this was a very short story because she just gave me the story like quickly. It was one of my followers that I've met in person, and she was so excited to tell me her story, even though it was like I had no time and she really wanted me to post it, so here it is. I also just posted some new pictures on Instagram, so make sure y'all go and spam my pictures, spam my comments. Like, y'all can't tell me I'm not eating the girls up. I'm eating the girls up, yeah? So yeah, go follow me on Instagram, DM me your story so I can tell your story on here, and go comment on my new picture.
So you know that peeking wife story, that terrifying, scary story that went viral not that long ago? Well, I tend to spend my time for years now reading scary stories on the internet, on Reddit. I love to read scary stories, and that reminded me of the most terrifying story I've probably ever read online. And to me, it is way worse than the peeking wife story. So I'm going to tell you about it now. There's several parts of it, so if you want me to keep doing all 4 parts, I think there's 4 or 5 parts, I will, but I'm going to tell you about part 1 right now. You let me know if you think it's scarier than the peeking wife. So the guy starts by writing about how he's always been afraid of like monsters, meaning like the monsters under your bed, in your closet, and all of that, right? And even as an adult, he was still afraid of these things, and he said he felt so silly being still afraid of things that he knew did not exist. That was until he met his wife, Natalie. Now, he and Natalie met in college. He was nerdy, she liked him anyway, she's super kind. They fell in love, he proposed, they get married. You know, they're the type of marriage where that's his best friend, that kind of thing, right? He feels safe with her, he trusts her with everything in him. The biggest thing he loves about her is her beautiful green eyes that make him feel so safe, right? He elaborates on that. So anyway, now they're married. He's the one that works. She doesn't work. She's taking college courses. And one night, it's 3 a.m. He wakes up. He's super thirsty. It's the middle of the night. And he says, like, he's the type of guy that needs a flashlight when he wakes up in the middle of the night because he's scary, right? So he turns on the flashlight and he notices his wife is not in bed. But he sees that the bathroom light is on and he hears water running, so he's like, oh, she must be just in the bathroom. So he goes downstairs, goes to the kitchen, and he like literally gasped because there she is. She's just standing in the corner drinking some water, and she smiles at him, and he feels relieved. So he just mumbles something about how it was hot and how he needed some water, and then he starts to go back upstairs, and as he's going upstairs, he's like, come to bed with me, it's late. He gets back upstairs and in their bedroom, and she's asleep in the bed. He is very much freaked out, and he wakes her up and tries to tell her, like, I could have swore just seen you downstairs. And she just half asleep, kind of half annoyed, is like, it's okay, you're just tired, go back to sleep. And the next morning she makes a joke like, you are just so scared of everything that you think you see me everywhere. And she was like, I was using the bathroom when you thought I was downstairs anyway. And they just kind of move on from it. So now it's a week later, it's broad daylight, it's a Saturday morning. She wakes him up at 11 a.m. and she's like, I'm gonna go get some grocery. And so while she goes and gets grocery, he plans to have brunch with her. So he gets up and gets dressed and goes down to the kitchen. And when he gets to the kitchen, there she is. She's standing there drinking water. And he's like, back so soon? She doesn't say anything. She just smiles and keeps drinking her water. A few minutes later, the doorbell rings and he goes to open the door, and who is it? None other than his wife with the groceries. And she jokingly kind of bitches at him and is like, are you gonna help me? Like, I have all these groceries in my hand. And she, I guess, notices that he is pale because of what just happened. He's like freaked out. He says that this time he knew what he saw. It was broad daylight. He knows he's not crazy. And he says that this is the first time that her beautiful green eyes were scary to him, basically. And so she says that she needs to sit him down and tell him something that she should have told him a long time ago. She sits him down and explains to him that when she was younger, her family would also see her around when she wasn't around, or see her in multiple places at once, and that since nothing bad ever happened, they just came to live with it basically and just kind of let it go. It became normal to them. He says that it took him a few months to really process and accept this situation. Which, I mean, how do you accept this type of situation? But anyway, so more things were happening. Like, he would see her sitting on their bed, and then he'd get downstairs and she would be cooking in the kitchen. And he said that it was important to note that there was never any overlap. So she wouldn't be there wouldn't be two of her in the same place at one time. And he started to call the other her the entity. So her mimic or whatever, her doppelganger, whatever you want to call it, he called it the entity. And he said it would never speak. It would only smile and look at him, and they never actually interacted. But that he just got used to it and, you know, kind of just lived with it just like her family did. That was until the day that everything changed. It was a Sunday and his wife was going to go visit her grandparents. She asked if he wanted to go and he was like, no, it's Sunday. I really want to just be lazy. I'll stay here. You go have your day with them. So she goes, he's sitting in the living room. He gets up to go to the kitchen to go get something to drink or eat or whatever. And there it is, the entity, right? So because, again, he said like he had gotten used to this thing being there, he just kind of smiled at it, you know, kind of spoke to it, but knowing it wasn't his wife, right? But something different happened. The phone rang and it was his wife. Now, mind you, before there had never been any overlap. So her calling right in the moment when this entity is present was an overlap. As soon as he answers the phone and it's his wife and she's like, hey honey, I'm gonna run late. Granny's insisting on me staying for lunch, whatever. As soon as he hears his wife's voice, the next thing he hears is the glass shatter. And she hears it too on the phone. Now he turns to look at the entity and she was no longer smiling. She was glaring with a terrifying grin. And her beautiful green eyes were no longer green. Now they were black. Her head was also tilted, he said, at a perfectly 90-degree angle, and she was pointing at him. And his wife is like, what happened? Did you drop something? He says, no, she did. And this sends his wife into a panic, and she just screams, hang up and look away right now. And so he does. And he hangs up, he looks away, and when he finally opens his eyes back, the thing is gone. He was confused and scared, and he calls his wife back and he's like, what is happening? So his panicked wife is now headed home as fast as she can, and she's just saying like, they told me this would not happen. They told me that there would never be an overlap. They told me she was harmless. And he's just like thinking, who is they? What are you talking about? And so now he ends the story with him sitting, waiting for his wife to come home while he is completely terrified. And he just reiterates the fact that someone that he found so much comfort in is now the monster that he fears the most. So let me know if you want me to go into part 2 and get into what the hell is going on.
Can we show him the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
Tonight's True Scary Story is a short one, but a good one. Oh my god, this one freaked me the fuck out. Before we get started though, I do want to remind you to subscribe to my where I tell longer versions of stories and scarier stories. The link is in my link tree in my bio. And tonight I will be telling a story that you have not heard on there yet. And if you want to send me your true scary story, my email is in my bio. I am looking for crazy stories right now, like stories that you do not think anyone will ever believe. So we're going to call tonight's submitter Kelly because she wanted to remain anonymous, but she will be in the comments seeing everything. If you have any comments or questions for her, drop them there. This all happened when Kelly was 7 or 8 years old. And before this happened, the night before this happened, Kelly felt absolutely nothing. She felt no negative energy, nothing at all. She was completely fine. It was about 8 to 10 p.m. when she fell asleep, and she normally fell asleep pretty fast, and this night she also fell asleep pretty fast. Then she woke up around midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning, and she woke up for absolutely no reason whatsoever. She didn't have to go to the bathroom, she didn't need a drink, nothing. She just woke up out of nowhere. She had a single bed with a very short footboard, and as she's waking up and her eyes are adjusting to like the light in the room, or I guess the dark in the room, she saw something at the end of her bed. She saw this very, very tall, skinny lady standing at the end of her bed. The door was halfway open, so it wasn't completely dark in the room, so she could see this lady, but this lady was completely black. You couldn't see the lady's head, but she could tell that it was there, and she said that it was literally up to the roof. That's how tall this lady was. When all of a sudden the lady starts to slowly crouch down. And the lady starts to sway back and forth as she's crouched down, walking slowly towards her, just swaying back and forth. Oh my God, I would lose my ever-loving mind. Its head was getting closer and closer to her as it was swaying. And although she didn't see any facial features, she let out the loudest scream, like literally a howl. She said she has never screamed like that in her entire life. It lasted for like 7 seconds. It did not stop this thing though, because this thing kept getting closer and closer. So she finally puts her blankets over her head and she's just sitting there in absolute terror. So her dad comes rushing in her room and he's like, what happened? What happened? And she couldn't even make out the words. She's just staring at him wide-eyed with tears pouring down her face. So he tells her to sleep in his bed. So she goes and sleeps in his bed, but for the rest of the night she felt this eerie feeling, like she couldn't even explain it. It was just evil. She said that she just knew something was near her. She just felt it, but she ends up falling back asleep, and the next day everything is okay. A couple months pass by. Now, this entire time she had continued to sleep with her dad because she was so terrified that this was going to happen again that she couldn't even fathom sleeping in her room by herself. And one day she's sitting in her dad's room and her dog is laying on the floor asleep when all of a sudden she sees him wake up and he looks into the closet and he's like staring intently into the closet. The dog starts barking at this point. He is barking and growling at the closet and she is terrified. She looks over at the closet and she doesn't see anything, but she's like, I have to get my dog out of here and myself. So she grabs her dog and she brings him out of the room. While she's walking out of the room, she has to pass by the closet. When she passes by the closet, she feels a strong wind just gush in her face. She got this horrible feeling like something was in there looking at her, so she brings her dog into the garage where her father is. The dog kept looking at the side of the house from the garage door and he was looking into the hallway and he just kept growling and barking for no reason. Now that hallway was down by where her dad's room was, so the dog was growling and barking at her dad's room still. She still to this day thinks that her dog saw the same thing that she saw, and it absolutely terrifies her. And she to this day is still terrified of what happened to her. And I would be too. That is effing terrifying. When I read that, I was like, holy I don't know what I would do. I had a sleep paralysis incident that was very similar to that, but it was sleep paralysis. I wasn't awake. I would freaking lose it. What do you guys think this was? Like, what do you think that was? And she didn't see its face, like how tall that was and how like how weird it must have looked bent over because of how tall it was. I can't even like think about it right now. But what do you guys think it was? Do you think it was a demon? Do you think that it was just like a bad ghost? Like, is that such a thing as bad ghost? She said she would love some answers, and so would I. Quite frankly. Has anyone else ever seen anything like that? Drop it in the comments because, oh my God. I'm going to do my shout out. My first shout out is going to Jackie Reyes. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you so much for being so kind. You are so sweet and like commenting all the time and just being supportive. That means absolutely everything to me. I love you for that. And then my second one is Lisa Hartwig. Thank you so much for being so supportive and sweet also. Like, I love you, girl. Like, you always say it back and I just think that's so sweet. All of you guys are so amazing. Genuinely, I love you all so much. You know this, but I will never stop saying it. My name is Kaisa and I tell true scary stories that you guys submit to me on here every single night. So if you like that, hit that follow button and keep sending me your scary stories, you guys. I need scary, scary stories. So I need you to do 2 things for me. And what are those? Have a safe night and what? Have a spooky night. Love you guys. Be safe. See you in the next one.
A real true crime case of a killer clown. On the morning of May 26, 1990, Marlene Warren had a visitor at her door. When she opened her door, standing in front of her was a clown holding flowers and balloons. Before Marlene even knew what was happening, the clown took out a revolver and shot her in the face. Since it's now October, you guys have been asking me to cover the most terrifying true crime cases I know, and truly, what is scarier than a real killer clown? Marlene's son and some of his friends were over for breakfast and they could see everything that happened. They saw the clown just turn around and walk slowly, silently back to the car that they came in, get in the car and just drive away like nothing happened. Marlene was rushed to the hospital but sadly passed away 2 days later from her injuries. When a woman is killed, the first person that investigators look at is the husband. Marlene and Mike Warren owned multiple properties and businesses together, but they were also having severe marital problems. Marlene suspected that her husband Mike had been having an affair and that she was even afraid for her life. She told multiple people before she passed away that if something happened to her, her husband was the one that did it. But her husband had an airtight alibi. It could not have been him that came to her house dressed like a clown and had shot her. Could he have hired someone? And what about the woman that he was having this rumored affair with? That woman was Sheila Keene. Sheila was also married actually to a member of the KKK. And it was pretty well known knowledge that Sheila and Michael were having an affair, that they were sleeping together, although they always denied it. They claimed that they were just friends. But even Sheila's own neighbors thought that Michael was her husband instead of her actual KKK husband because of how often Michael was over at her house. But just because two people may or may not be having an affair is not enough to charge someone with murder. Well, luckily, the investigators started to gather a lot of convincing evidence. They were able to track down the costume shop where the clown costume had been purchased. The owners of the costume shop said that 2 days before Marlene was killed, a woman with dark brown hair and big brown eyes came after closing to the shop, frantically saying that she needed to get in because she needed to get a clown costume. This would be, typical behavior if it was the day before Halloween, but this was in the middle of spring. And the owners of that costume shop were able to identify Sheila as that woman from a photo lineup. And the same description of the same woman, long brown hair, big brown eyes, was seen at the Publix grocery store right near Marlene's house the day that she passed away, purchasing those flowers and balloons that the clown was holding. 4 days after Marlene was killed, the same car that the clown was seen driving was found abandoned in a parking lot 8 miles away. In the backseat of the car was a Publix grocery store bag, so things are lining up, and inside of the bag were orange wig fibers, likely from the orange clown wig. And that same car had actually been reported stolen. It was from a used car shop. A used car shop that Marlene's husband Michael was the owner of, so things are not looking good. And speaking of Marlene's husband Michael, investigators do not trust this man. They believe that Michael and his mistress Sheila were the ones that killed Marlene, so they start investigating every single aspect of Michael's life. They start investigating his businesses. Remember, him and Marlene owned a lot of businesses together, and they actually found out that Michael had been committing a lot of fraud through his businesses. They actually charged him with 43 counts of fraud and racketeering, and he went to prison for 3 years because of this. After his release, him and Sheila both just kind of disappeared. They both left the area and no one knew where they went. And that's all that the investigators had for a really, really long time. This case went unsolved for years and years. Luckily, the investigators could not let this case go. Even independent journalists were unable to let this case go. They demanded that Marlene's case did not go unsolved. And what they were able to find next was shocking. Turns out, 12 years after Marlene was killed, her husband Michael married Sheila in a secret wedding. Now remember, Michael always denied having an affair with Sheila. Sheila, who is the prime suspect in his wife's murder. He married the prime suspect in his wife's murder 12 years later in a secret wedding. It's like super suspicious. It had been years since Marlene had been killed, and investigators and independent journalists were able to work together and finally track down Michael and Sheila. Turns out, after being married in secret for a little bit, the two of them actually moved states together. They opened a restaurant together. Sheila had dyed her hair suspiciously the same color as Marlene's hair, looking like her husband's dead wife, kind of weird. Sheila was also going by a new name, and everyone that knew Sheila and Michael in this new area that went to their restaurant all the time had no idea that the two of them had ever been married before. They did not know that Michael had a dead wife. They knew nothing about any of this. This is when we found out that the investigators were actually holding on to a really, really big piece of evidence. They had DNA that was left in that car that the clown had drove that was abandoned in that parking lot. But DNA testing was not the same in the 90s that it was now. But the investigators kept onto it just in case DNA testing ever got better. So they start retesting all of their old DNA, and that's when they finally linked Sheila's DNA to the DNA that they found in the car. It had been 27 years since Marlene had been killed, and Sheila was finally arrested for murdering her on September 26, 2017. And I bet for those nearly 3 decades, Sheila believed that she had gone away with it. They actually found a photo that was taken years after Marlene was killed of Sheila at a Halloween party, and guess what she dressed up as? She dressed up as a clown. Tell me that's not the sickest, most evil thing you've ever heard of. And I bet in her mind, she thought it was funny, dressing up like a clown for Halloween a few years after killing Marlene while dressed up as a clown. Originally, the prosecution was going for the death penalty in the trial of Sheila Keene, but after the trial was postponed so many times during like the 2020 pandemic, they ended up offering her a plea deal, and sadly she did take the plea deal, and it was if she pled guilty to killing Marlene that they would only give her 12 years in prison, and she's expected to be released next year in 2025. Apparently, there was never enough evidence to charge Michael Warren in the murder of his wife. As of right now, only Sheila has ever been charged, which really upsets me because I feel like we had enough evidence to charge Sheila. So if we were going to offer her a plea deal, it would have been to incriminate Michael. But definitely let me know your thoughts on that. I doubt I'm not the only person that also believes that Michael is guilty and this was a conspiracy that he came up with his mistress Sheila to kill his wife. And I bet that that's going to be frustrating for a lot of you that, like me, believe that Michael Warren as of right now has gone away with the murder of his wife. And honestly, Sheila got away with only kind of a slap on the wrist. You know, she got to live freely for 27 years before being arrested and then was sentenced to only 12 years. So definitely let me know all your thoughts in the comments while you guys are there. Please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Until then, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys tomorrow with the next October themed case.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen. Did the window break?
No, because it's painful enough that you just lost your lover, but now that same lover is haunting you. Scary story time. I understand when you lose somebody, it hurts. The pain is unbearable. Grieving is a very hard thing, but that should never make you want to try and get in contact with your deceased close person, because 9 times out of 10 it is not that person. It is a mimicking spirit or demon messing with you and making your life hell. And I have always said this on my page, always. Sometimes your loved ones that has passed away, they will try to send you messages, they will try to get in contact with you, but let them do it. They are already in that spiritual realm. You're not. So when you try to get in contact with that realm, you're peeking your head through a door that has millions and millions of spirits and demons and lots of other things that will try to take any opportunity to free themselves or just mess with you. So this lady had recently lost her husband. They had 3 kids together. It was very tragic. It was a car accident. He was her whole world. They were like soulmates, she said. They had each other's backs like no other. She didn't really have much of a family. So after he passed, it was really just her alone in this world with her kids. She didn't quite know how to handle that. Nobody really quite know how to handle grief, you know? He would show up in her dreams. Everything she saw reminded her of him. She was a mess. She was depressed. She was crying every day. She could barely parent. So she decided that she wanted closure. She wanted to get in contact with him to know that he's still with her, that she's not alone. And so in your most vulnerable stage, this is when the devil tries you the best. This is when he throws the lowest blows, the trickiest tricks. And so she was scrolling on TikTok, just trying to distract herself, you know? And she saw this video of this creator, who I'm not going to name, because she told me who the creator was. And that creator is one of the creators that have people out here doing spells that will ruin their lives. Anyways, the creator posted how to get in contact with your deceased loved one. So she said the creator said to take a candle, take a picture of the person, take some of their belongings, wait for like a full moon or something, take some verses from the Bible, repeat them. It was a whole ritual and process. So the pain was too much for her, and she decided that I'm gonna do this. I need to speak to him. I need to know that he's okay, and I need to know that he's with me. So she puts her kids to bed. She did it exactly at midnight. She had everything laid out. She did everything that the creator said to do. And so she was talking and crying, and you know, in the middle of it, she started feeling chills. And with that chill came a feeling. And she said to me that that feeling felt wrong. It was not a good vibe. She just brushed it off as like, this is my first time doing something like this, so of course I'm gonna feel scared, you know? But always believe, always trust your gut. Energy does not lie. Your gut does not lie. And so she said after that night that she did that, dynamic of the house changed drastically, and not in a good way. It started off in a good way because that's how they trick you. First, it started off as something simple as, his clothes, his belongings, finding in random places. And so it would make her happy a little bit. But every time she would walk in the house, there was this negative, just feeling that she couldn't shake off. So as the negative feelings started to gradually grow, it became more and more negative. And she knew she messed up when she came home one day, and the little weird stuff that was happening, this time it almost took her out. Like, almost her.